Welcome to the next podcast of EPM Confessions and Chronicles, or Chronicles or Confessions, whatever you want. Here we have Shuj Patel today. Shuj, could you just introduce yourself and your journey, please?
Absolutely, Tim. Well, number one, nice to see you, and thank you very much for inviting me to these series of podcasts. So I'm Shuj, and my EPM journey, I would say, has been, of course, over a number of years, but it's been a series of stepping stones, and I think some of it is probably by accident more than by anything that I've planned along the way. So I've kind of reinvented myself over the years as well. So initially I actually started off as an engineer, and I've got a few years working as a civil engineer building roads and bridges, but I moved away from that. Moved into finance, into the world of finance, but I guess at that time it was financial accounting, and I didn't really enjoy financial accounting. Financial accounting for me at that time, I was a junior auditor. I didn't really enjoy that, and I didn't really do well in the exams either. So I left that after about a year or so. But then by accident found myself into the world of management accounting, and I really enjoyed that. And the reason I enjoyed that was because I was actually doing some stuff. And I could see what I've done at the end of the day. And it's a bit like the work that I was doing in construction, whereby, at the end of each day, if I looked back, I could see, the bridge had been was a bit bigger, or the road had been built a little bit more. That I didn't get that sense in financial accounting, or certainly auditing, but I did get that in management accounting. So I started off my finance career in the world of FP&A. EPM was just not known at that time. I'd never heard of EPM at that time, but I was working in the world of management accounting. I worked for 5 years for a fairly large, well, in fact, very large engineering conglomerate. We were one of the UK companies based in the UK, and at that time, I kind of worked myself up to leading the FP&A team. And we were doing all the management accounting for this particular company. But in the overall scheme of things for the group as a whole, we kind of sat somewhere in the middle of the organization hierarchy. So as a UK company, we were divided into a number of business units, which rolled up into a number of business areas, which then rolled up into our UK company. Then the UK company itself rolled up into, UK total, which then rolled up into group reporting. So we were doing intercompany eliminations and consolidations and translations, all those kind of good things that we kind of now do in the EPM space. We were doing that for our company, and then once we'd got to a set of results for ourselves, for our company, we then provided sent the results up to group. So that was, and I spent about 5 years doing that. And I guess, and also, included within that was all the good things like budgeting and forecasting. So it's really what we do in the EPM space today. But at that time, it really wasn't called EPM. I mean, I think at that time, we're going back to the mid 1990s. So at that time, it was simply, pure management accounting. And I kind of enjoyed that. So I did that for about 5 years, and then at that time, towards the end of my period with that particular company, we were also consolidating a number of systems because we had acquired a couple of companies. So we were putting 3 companies together. So I got involved in a systems implementation role, whereby we were consolidating the systems from 3 different companies into one large system. So I guess that's how I got my first taste of implementations. Found out that I quite enjoyed that. Then I moved away from the company, and I started to work for KPMG, doing systems implementations. And at that time, I was working on ERP related implementations. PeopleSoft, you might have heard of PeopleSoft, was fairly new in that at that time, which subsequently got purchased bought out by Oracle. So I spent a number of years working for KPMG, predominantly implementing PeopleSoft. I moved away from KPMG after about 5 years, then started doing work for my own as a day rate contractor, but still in the ERP space. And then again, by accident, one of my projects just ended up being an EPM implementation,
Right. Yeah.
with Oracle. And we were implementing at the time HFM for consolidations and planning for budgets and forecasts. And there was also at the time strategic finance.
Right.
So it's quite a nice varied series of projects, ultimately leading up into the program. So it was a stepped approach. I think we put in budgets first, and then we put in forecasts and process, then moved away into strategic finance, and then ultimately we looped back to put in the big project, which was the group consolidation for actual reporting. That took a fair amount of time. So I think I was there for this is actually at BT, and I was there for about maybe two and a half years, doing all of those years, putting in all of those processes. And that I guess is the start of my EPM journey. And then I think I guess for the last maybe 19-20 years, I've just been working on EPM related implementations.
That's quite a long time.
Some of them, I mean, it hasn't been all EPM, but predominantly I think maybe 75-80% of it has been EPM implementations, and I guess has also been focused on the Oracle kind of applications. So Oracle being Oracle, the clients tend to be the large corporates, multinational organizations. So they have been fairly large, meaty implementations lasting maybe a year and a half, 2 years, some even more than 3 years. So that's really been my kind of journey within EPM, doing what I kind of doing now. I kind of enjoy it, so I like to think that I'm somewhat good at it, so stick with what you're good at.
Thank you so much for that. So in essence, it's a very complex thing we do. It's very hard to explain this to various people, and especially our families, really. Have you got any funny misconceptions of what EPM is, what you do
I don't, Tim. I don't even attempt to do that. I think EPM is just talking about finance generally puts my family members off. I think EPM is so specialized in such a niche area. Trying to explain that it just doesn't work for me anyway. I don't really have any conversations about EPM. If anybody asks me what I'm doing, then I just say, well, I help organizations, really big organizations, understand how they're doing pretty quickly, so that they can make put in some corrective actions in a timely fashion. And that's as far as I go.
I think that's a good one. I think I'll use that one.
Doing anything more complex or in any detail, I think it just goes over people's
of course.
So I just deliberately don't go into the details, because I know it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to be understood by a lot of people, certainly outside of the finance community.
Sure. So what has been your toughest EPM challenge to date, and how did you resolve it?
Well, I kind of I joke with some of the people that I work with that if we didn't have users and we didn't have data, we'd have a perfect system. So it's a bit flippant, but if you turn that on its head, then the challenges are always with people, with users, and with data. So those are the kind of areas that I focus on. Users is all about the change impact, the change journey, understanding what they're doing today, understanding what the changes will be, how it will impact them going forward, and just managing that change with the users. And the data is all about the quality of data, the granularity of data, the mapping of data, the translation of data, or transformation of data from source to target. So if you understand the data, if you understand the output and what you're trying to do, then you can manage the journey of the data from source to target, and all the kind of I guess the processes and the calculations in between. So I focus on the users, and I focus on the data, and I think if I do that, then I think it takes us a good way into managing the key challenges.
Definitely. So what has been your standout success story, you could say, in your career?
Well, the standout, I mean, they've all been good, luckily. Fingers crossed, they've all been, touch wood, they've all been good. But I think one of my more recent ones was actually at Tesco, where that was quite a large. I mean, it was an Oracle Fusion implementation followed by an EPM implementation. So I was working on the EPM side of things, and looking back at it, I think we had a very slick, I would say, process that we put in, and it spanned a number of areas. There was a number of applications involved and spanned a number of business processes as well. And it was very well integrated, and I think that's what I enjoyed about it, and I think that's why I would call it quite a good a success as a project. So we had HFM doing all the, well, we had Fusion where we had and some other source systems as well, not only Fusion, but Fusion was Oracle Fusion was the big I guess GL system. We had Fusion, we had a few other source systems, all feeding up into HFM. We did the consolidation in HFM, but then HFM, the data in HFM also then fed out to EPBCS and also TRCS for tax. The EPBCS did its own calculation and did its own processing, and then fed back the information into HFM. TRCS for tax did the same, and then fed back the information into HFM. And then overlying all of that, we had DRM managing the all the data management side of things. So I think that was a fairly slick set of processes that we put in place, and it was all integrated. So I think I'm quite pleased with the way that ended up. So I would say that's one of the success stories that I like to consider.
Sure, fantastic. So what's the most rewarding part of your job that you feel?
I think there's a number of rewarding aspects to what I do. I mean, the journey itself is quite rewarding. From most of the projects I've worked on have been end-to-end project lifecycle kind of type projects. So you're running through from the start of the project. So you've got the start, you've got the middle, and you've got the end, and we're running through that journey of understanding, I guess, to start off with, understanding what the end goal should look like, will be, and then just managing the process of running through the project, running through all the actual, I guess, the deliverables and the sub processes needed to get to allow us to get to where we need to go. So it's the kind of journey, and the obviously you never take on the journey on your own. It's always a team effort. So it's liaising with other people within the project, liaising with the end users, liaising with other stakeholders as well, and taking everybody on that journey. And everybody has a slightly different journey themselves, individual journeys, but I think I enjoy that. That's the journey. The end result is always good as well. I enjoy the end result, and I guess we shouldn't, or I never forget that we deliver a set of numbers, but there's always a story behind the numbers, and it's really understanding what the story is behind those numbers, behind those tables, behind those graphs that we present as the output. So I kind of enjoy all of that. I think that's kind of rewarding. So it's the journey, it's the end result, and it's the what does it actually mean? What's the story? What is this story? What are these numbers telling me as a story?
Sure. So have you got any kind of funny or quirky moments in your career that you can share with us? It doesn't have to be anything personal.
Funny, more amusing, I guess, than
amusing,
funny.
Okay.
So a couple of amusing anecdotes, I guess. One of the, I won't name any names here, but one of the large corporates that I was doing an implementation for, and we're talking, billions of kind of pounds worth of revenue, so fairly large organization. Before we went in, they used to do their consolidation on a server. The server in this case was really just a standalone computer that was underneath somebody's table in the finance department. So very high risk approach to consolidating data for the whole group, all based on a server or a computer just sat underneath somebody's desk. So I found that kind of amusing. And then the other one, I guess, which is amusing as well. So I mentioned BT earlier on. So I went into BT. We did a finance transformation. And I think this was about 15 years ago. So we put in Oracle suite of applications, HFM planning, and so forth, as part of the finance transformation program at that time. Now, fast forward 15 years. I've actually just been back at BT,
Oh, wow.
and we've ended up putting in SAP. So we
Oh,
replaced. So
wow.
I was part of a team who actually replaced the original set of application that we put in 15 years ago
Wow.
with a new one. And the business of BT has changed. They've been acquisitive, and to make it truly transformational, they really just wanted to get away from
Mm,
Oracle. So
right.
the current reporting applications are based around the SAP suite. So I went in and 15 years ago put in Oracle, and then I've gone in 15 years later as part of a group, part of a project team, and we've replaced what I put in 15 years ago with something completely different. So that's been that's
That's
kind of
quite interesting, definitely.
amusing and interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, no, definitely. So you're quite a successful freelancer contractor. You've been doing it for a long time. What's been your inspiration actually to start it and stay there? It's not always easy to stay in this industry.
Yeah, so I guess I've have the luxury of experience of working as both a contractor, freelance contractor, but also working for some of the larger consultancies. So I've worked with
Yes.
KPMG and I work with EY, and I think what I enjoy about the contracting side of things is that at this stage in my career, I know what I'm good at and what I'm not so good at.
Yeah.
And I know and I enjoy the project delivery aspects of things. So what contracting allows me to do is just come in, hit the ground running, do what I need to do, and then I know at the end of it I'm going to be moving away and going on to something else, and I don't mind that. That's part and parcel of what I kind of do. So I know I go into a role, I'll be there for maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe longer, just depending on the nature of the project or the size of the project, and then at the end of it I'll move on to something else. But what it does do, it allows me to focus on what I'm good at, and there's no hidden agenda, and there's no
Yes, yes.
move. So I find that if I'm working for an organization as an employee, then it's easy to be sidetracked into other things. And I think from if I work for a consultancy, let's say, for argument's sake, then I'd be doing things that I probably don't enjoy, like business development,
Right. Yes, yes.
bringing in revenue. I don't think I'm good at that naturally anyway.
Mm,
So being a contractor just allows me to focus on what I think I'm good at, and allows me to kind of parachute in, do what I need to do, and
yeah.
then get out. So I enjoy that. I mean, obviously there's an element of risk in doing that, because you just don't know when or where the next
Sure.
project is coming from. But
Yeah.
I've accepted that, and I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm okay with that. So it just allows me to kind of focus on what I think I'm good at, and not get distracted or sidetracked with anything else.
Cool. So the industry is evolving, it's changing, it's very fluid in many ways. How do you keep updated what's happening around you?
Yeah, I'm not sure I do that too well, actually. That's a difficult one. But what I do is just keep an eye open on what the large vendors
Yeah,
are providing, white papers that they're publishing. I guess it's in their interest to offer what are leading practices of the day. So just keeping abreast of what they're doing, what they're providing, and if I'm working with some of the larger vendors or larger organizations
mm,
who are implementing some of the larger suites or applications, then typically inherent within the application are a set of leading practices anyway. So just understanding those, and I guess moving from one client to another client, normally I'd be starting at the start of their journey. At the
yeah,
start of their journey, they're always looking at what are leading practices as well.
sure.
And I guess so again, with taking Oracle as an example, their clients tend to be largish clients with a fairly large budget. Within their project, they typically have helping them out, one of the big four, let's say,
Right.
PwC, EY, KPMG, and so forth. So we're always, part of that team, exchanging ideas, design ideas, and
Yeah,
implementation ideas. And then within a large project, again, there's normally some kind of an SI partner as well. So we're kind of in the mix with the people of the know, if you like,
sure,
people in
sure.
the know.
Yeah.
So I guess that's how I just keep abreast of what's happening. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but it's kind of served me well, I guess, for a while.
Completely. So we have a lot of listeners who are just at the beginning of their careers or people who are considering it. What's your advice to them in terms of people who are coming into this industry or learning further?
My advice, and maybe I'm being a little bit biased because this is how I kind of learned my trade, is really just get the basics right, get the fundamental right. And I think when I look at what we do within the EPM space, there's the process and there's the technology. We focus what we do. We focus more on the kind of the technology, the processes, and then pass over the technology together with the process to the the in-house BAU kind of teams and the finance teams. Yeah. But I think what really has helped me is really understanding the basics. So when I talk about the basics, it's really what are we trying to do? The technology is just the enabler. The process of understanding how the organization is doing and taking corrective action, that will be there regardless of the technology. We still need to do that. The organization will still need to do that. So that's the what. If you understand the what and the fundamentals, the building blocks of what the FP&A, let's call it FP&A for a second, what the FP&A team is doing, what it needs to do, and the kind of the building blocks and all the kind of the different elements of things that happen within the FP&A team. If you understand that, then you can apply the technology to it. And then when you're applying the technology to it, hopefully it will make much more sense and be an easier journey and an easier ride. And also it will facilitate easier conversations with the client. So I guess my advice is really understand the basics. And to understand the basics, maybe the first thing to do is actually work in an FP&A team, work as the end user, work as a client. Yes. And then move away into maybe a consulting capacity where you're implementing something, but at least by that time you understood the basics. It's a case of the what and the how. Understand the what before you focus on the how.
Cool. So you've been in the industry for a long time and you've seen it evolve in many ways, and some are saying that in the next couple of years it's going to be a lot of changes. What do you believe is going to happen in the next 5 years in terms of the future of this industry?
Well, I think what I'm seeing is a shift always to greater automation. Yes. And we have AI kind of pretty much everywhere we go. We look, we hear the words AI. So I think automation and AI are the things to watch out for. But I think there's a kind of a warning here as well for us, because what I see, even outside of the the AI space, what I see with users is they need to trust their data. And I've seen so many times with clients that they see data that comes out of what they call a black box, and they don't really understand it. And the data might be wrong, or it might be wrong, it might be right. It doesn't really matter. What they need is some trust that it's the right data. And for them to get that level of trust, many times what they end up doing is trying to recreate the data by doing the calculations offline on, let's say, an Excel spreadsheet, just to satisfy themselves that's what's coming out of the box is the correct set of numbers. So they have to go through that process, that manual process of validating the numbers that come out of the box. And I think as we get towards more on the automation side and more on the AI, I think maybe the things that we need to consider is, will users still have the same level of trust on the data that comes out of this, the magic box? Because if they lose that trust, AI may be wonderful and automation may be wonderful, but if they lose that level of trust, what will end up happening inevitably is that users will just try to do something offline to validate that what's coming out of the magic box is actually the correct number. So I think that's just something. So whilst I think this is what will happen, automation and AI will take over, I just think that one of the for us, we just need to be cautious and make sure that there's still a level of trust for the users that allows them to take the data and actually run with the data without having to validate the data.
Oh, fantastic. No, that's been a real insightful podcast. Thank you so much, Shuj, today. And definitely, definitely talk to you soon, and take care. Have a good day.
You too as well. Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye then.
Bye.